Hey guys, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the changes happening in the 2022 Supercoach AFL season. So, just wanted to say welcome back and enjoy the video. Arguably, the biggest change this year is moving from 30 to 35 trades and the introduction of trade boosts. So, what does this mean for us? So, extra trades means that we can have riskier starting teams, more flexibility when it comes to trades. So, trading out a player maybe a week or two earlier than you usually would during the season. You might be inclined to, I've got to go and hold a player for 2 weeks, they're injured, blah, blah, blah. Well, now you've got the availability and the flexibility to do that. So, I know a big issue with Supercoach in previous years is basically most teams are done after the bye, and a lot of people have actually used all their trades or are holding the 4 to 5 injury trades. With 35, at least from the start, you should see a lot more action and a lot more people this year actually sticking around for the entire season because they've got something to do. So, with the trade boosts, I don't know, we'll go back. If you have a look at the trade boosts down the bottom, what they've done is they've included an extra 5 trade boosts throughout the year. So what does that mean? During the regular season, each week, you can normally trade 2 players. And during the bye rounds, you can trade 3. Well, now we've put it in, so you guys can trade 3 during the bye rounds, so 3 during the regular season and 4 during the bye rounds. Up to 5 times during the whole season. So 5 weeks you can nominate. I assume it's going to happen at the start of the week after lockdown. Be like, yep, this week's going to be my trade boost week. In previous years, we've had trouble with 2 players on the bubble and having to choose which one you're going to bring into your team to maximize cash gen. Or trying to upgrade or downgrade 2 players while you're also keeping the notion of, hey, I really want this premium in my side. And I want to get him in just before he starts rising in price again, and this is the week to do it. In previous years, you've had to tie up between the 2 different things. What are you going to do? Whereas now, you can do both. And that's what the trade boosts are for. They will help a lot during COVID outs if multiple players from multiple teams are going to be out. But you can also use them generally for trading as well. And I think this year, we may only see players out for 1 or 2 weeks. So using the trade boost to quickly upgrade your team and to maximize profits is probably going to be the way to go. I know that with COVID regulations now, in Victoria at least, if you've got COVID, you're only out for a week. And that's generally how long you would be, say, if a player tweaked their calf at training or something like that. So you wouldn't trade out those players during a game or during the season. You wouldn't trade out someone who's out a week for concussion. So you probably won't do that with coronavirus either. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Boost maximize your profits and go for maximum trades. We're going to see a few teams this year that will be completed before the bye rounds, which is crazy to think about. It just wouldn't happen in any previous years. So, it's a little bit confusing, but just bear with me. In previous years, if you had a player that, say, played on a Sunday and it was a Friday, and you had 1 trade left, you could actually trade out the player that you had originally brought in by trading in the player that you had brought out. So it would be a swap. Let's say I brought in Cripps, he plays on a Sunday, but Cripps is injured and I still have 1 trade left. I could trade out, let's say, Tom Powell, that I had got rid of to get some cash. I could do a bit of a swap, and then those players could have swapped, and then I would have still had my 2 trades left for the week, and, none for the wise, and I wouldn't have wasted those trades. Well, this year, they've made it official. We've got trade updates. So basically, in a similar situation, it's Friday lockout, and you've brought in guys that aren't played yet, let's say on the Saturday or the Sunday. They get injured. Now you have the availability to actually trade those players out and reverse the trade. As long as those players you've brought in haven't played and the ones you've traded out haven't played either, then you can do a swap there. So it gives us that little bit of flexibility with injuries, with COVID outs, really, really late outs, which kind of hurt a few people. I know there were some people that made their team or did their trades on, let's say, a Thursday, and then the best 22 had come out on the Friday because of the changes. Then they would have got stuck. Sorry, you can't reverse. Oh, well, too bad. Now, that's just not going to happen. More flexibility is always welcome. So one of the big changes that's coming to Supercoach this year, which will be a bit of contention between fans, is it worthwhile planning for it? Is it not? Does it actually make a huge impact? Is DPP changes this year? So AFL Fantasy's had this system in for a long time. It's worked quite well for them, at least changing teams around so that players and coaches, well, our super coaches, won't necessarily have the same teams. Because it's one of the big problems that we've actually had in Supercoach in previous years, especially in the forward line. People generally pick the top 6 or 8 guys, and then most forward lines look the same. This year, with these DPP changes, it might change things up a little, but I'm not holding my breath for it. So, in AFL Fantasy, I believe it was the middle of the year, if a player had played a certain amount of forward time, then they would get their eligibility, similar for midfield or defence if they didn't have it before. So, Hall and Zeeble obviously got defender status last year. Same with Bailey Dale and a few of those other guys who weren't necessarily given the wrong position at the start of the year, but were tried out in different positions. So, in Supercoach this year, come rounds 12, 6, 12 and 18, if a player has played 35% time of centre bounces they attend in the forward, mid, or back line, then they will get the DPP for that position. So let's say a Josh Kelly, for example, because Leon Cameron, what's he going to do? He's going to be resting forward quite a lot. He gets 35% whenever they bounce the ball in the middle. 35% of the time he's lining up in the forward line, he'll get that status for that position. In AFL Fantasy last year, with these changes, we only really saw 2 people who had a major impact on Supercoach actually get the position changes. And that was Josh Kelly and Sam Darcy. So I'm not expecting huge numbers. It's not like we're going to see the Bont getting forward status. I just don't think it's going to happen. He may rest up forward, but 35% game time is a lot, especially for these really dominant midfielders that line up a lot in the midfield. It just won't happen. We might see like the Jack Billings type maybe get a half forward and then he would be eligible, but I just don't think it's going to change that much. In the later 2 sections of the year, in rounds 12 and 18, it's not going to be that easy for players to get DPP unless they just haven't debuted, because the sample size needed for 35% is so much larger. Round 6, I think, is going to be one of the biggest changes. We may see 5 or 6 well-known names, but I just don't see it happening. We could potentially see a few ruckmen actually get DPP. A lot of players this year and a lot of ruckmen are actually sharing the role. I think that's moved towards a bit of a trend, considering that a lot of ruckmen are resting forward instead of going to the bench. A Goldstein, Max Gawn, Sean Darcy, for example, even Nick Nat and some other players. Because of limited rotations and a lot of teams running a second able ruckman, and a lot of sharing there, even a Darcy Cameron and Brodie Grundy, we could potentially see a few more ruckmen getting some DPP changes because they'll be on field for that extra time. If Goldstein, for example, is going to be playing 60-40 ruck or 70-30 ruck, potentially he could make DPP status this year. Remember, round 6 is only a 6-game sample size, so that's when it will happen. Unless someone gets injured throughout the year and a Zorko is forced forward, then maybe he'll get forward status in the other 2 sections, but I just don't think it will happen. It'll be interesting to see what goes on, what changes, and what planning people have for it as well. I know the forward line this year is a little bit shaky, and picking that set and forget players isn't happening a lot. So maybe we go mid-price and madness, and we hope to upgrade to some of these uber mid-primos that get forward status, or guys that just kind of show themselves in the position. We'll wait and see what happens. So another big change for this year is some more league customization. So you'll be able to join leagues or create leagues at any part of the season instead of doing it at the start of the season and being locked in. You can create leagues of up to 6 to 20 people. So if you've only got a small group of friends, or you want to try and do something closer to the end of the buys, that kind of thing, or after the buys, have some fun, say, hey, check out my team, I want to play you guys for the whole season, you can do that as well. 20-team leagues are actually going to be really interesting too. I think that more and more leagues are going to be moving up to that as well. keeps the flexibility going, keeps kind of the competition going as well. And you could probably see some more cash leagues and stuff doing that as well, to bigger prizes. So you can choose, similar to when you can start a league, you can choose when the league will finish. So let's say, before the bye rounds or after the bye rounds or before the last 5 or 6 games of the season. And you can actually customize your finals as well. And instead of just being locked into, okay, my team scored more points against the league, well, now we can do percentage as well. So some small changes there, but those that really like to do leagues, this is one's for you. So a big change this year for all your draftees, I know a few of you guys do that, is this year we're going to be having mock drafts. So instead of having to get stuck picking your players right at the start, you can actually do a bit of practicing, which I've found as someone who hasn't done a lot of drafting would help quite a lot. You'll be able to find some trends, kind of what players would be picked earlier than others. Maybe there's a couple of players who you thought, hey, Josh Dunkley might get picked really early, but he's continually falling to the 3rd or 4th round. So let's go and grab him earlier and put him down my draft order. This year also, you'll be able to customize the draft layout. So normally Supercoach is 6 defenders, 8 mids, 2 and 2. Well, this year you can actually customize that. So let's say you only want 4 defenders. You can do that. Let's say you only want 5 midfielders instead of 8. You can do that as well. And similarly for the other positions. So a bit more flexibility there, which is always good for those people. And similar to when you create your league, you can actually change the secondary ranking for your teams. So you might want to favor percentage necessarily more over how many points are scored, or you can do that too. Ever thought of getting Supercoach Gold? Well, 2022 might be the year to do it. There's a few changes coming up for this year that may only help the Supercoach Gold people, which some say it's good. Has Supercoach turned to pay to win? I don't really think so. There's always the third-party websites and things to look at break-evens, and I'm not sure how influential these changes will actually be to Supercoach. But let's have a look what they brought in. So this year they're going to be bringing in the intelligent auto trade. It's going to give us an idea of which players we actually should be going for with a certain amount of cash and trades we've got in our team. Let's say I've got 600k. Well, this defender's red hot fire, so I'm going to suggest you pick him up instead of, let's say, Lockie Neal or someone else who you're looking at actually getting in. It's going to give us the most popular VC options each week. So whoever's selected for VC come Friday, hey, Josh Kelly's been picked up as VC every week. He's the most favorite this week. Maybe you should have a look at him. It's actually going to give us which players are on field and which players are on bench. So it's going to give us that little bit more flexibility and ownership, being able to compare ourselves against the rest of the competition, which I know some of your Supercoach serious people are actually looking at doing. So it really helps. And it's going to give us which players are traded in and out as well. So it's a feature that has been in Supercoach before, but I think on that profile, it's actually going to say, hey, this player's been traded out for this guy and potentially what round as well. So you can say, do I really need to think about upgrading this week? Do I need to think about downgrading? Is there anything specific there that I've missed? And this is going to help you with that. They're not groundbreaking changes, but it does help. And every bit helps in Supercoach. So have a look, see what you think. We'll see what impact they actually have throughout the regular season. And potentially you might want to pick up gold next year. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. Just wanted to say we're in for a big year, 2022. And I can't wait to have you guys along for the journey. This here is the first league code. We're probably going to stick around for 2 or 3 leagues this year, depending on how many people and what the appeal's like. We will be having some league prizes coming up, so stay tuned for those. And we might even have you guys on the channel just to see how your teams are going. Throughout the year, we will be doing interviews with people in the community, and I'm planning to do a lot of weekly content as well once the actual season starts. The preseason's ramping up, and so will I. Just remember, guys, I'm Big J. Have a nice day. Bye. Hey guys, before I head off, I just wanted to ask, do you guys have anything that you want me to look at this season? Or even during the preseason? Any players that you might be looking at that you're a bit worried about? Or hey, Big J, come review my team and let me know what you think. I'm here, post down in the comments and we'll get it started.